And welcome to The Way TV. Glad to have you back. And things are going really good today. We're going to go through many clips of the Republicans and the Democrats who are actually aiding and abetting ISIS. So with that in mind, let us go ahead and start with clip. Adam, are you ready? Clip number 15, please.
But I'm an American. I don't identify myself as someone who is loyal to Mexico or has some outside of the United States sense of who I am. I'm an American. This country, I will put my life on the line for. And so there needs to be discussions amongst the Muslim society. Are you willing to put your life on the line for America? You see, the greatest victim of suicide bombers is not the Americans, not those that have been killed. The greatest victim is the Quran and the Prophet, peace be with him. That's where the situation is most unjust. Never use the Quran, never use the Prophet, peace be with him, for your own criminal deeds, including killing yourself. It is totally unacceptable in the eyes of God. I've asked CARE, and I know CARE is under some degree of scrutiny from some critics. Why don't you publish in the Jewish Journal your complete revocation and opposition to terrorists that are Palestinian? Say it. It hasn't happened yet, but you said they do say it in conversations and they do say it in context, but they say that they haven't opposed what I propose. But I say you have to tell the very people who feel the most pressure over suicide bombings, you have to tell them that you don't condone any aspect of that form of behavior.
So when you...
all the guns that we have in the hands of people, we have over 300 million guns.
300 million guns in the United States?
In people's various possession.
These are private guns.
Correct. And the point is, what do we need all these guns for? Well, it's a Second Amendment right, but we don't even deal with assault weapons in the right way, military weapons, weapons that are not hunting, weapons that are not even for self-defense, but they're there.
Okay, the reason I showed that is now retired Sheriff Baca. He's no longer in duty. They have a different guy on there, Jim McDonald, I believe his name is. But what I'm showing there is several years ago, Sheriff Baca, most powerful sheriff in the United States with 16,000 deputies working for them, was trying to get CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, to come out and to be public and showing the truth that, well, actually what he wanted to do was get them to come out and tell the truth, which they never did. So we have been going out, and I know I'm being monitored right now by the Muslim Brotherhood, Council on American Islamic Relations. Yes, indeed, you know, my group has been passing out these flyers that discuss stop the bullying, stop the racism. Yeah, you knew it was me, but you didn't have the proof. Well, I'm admitting it in open television right now. It's my group. First Amendment, Americans who love the First Amendment. Why do Muslims bully and kill Christians, Jews, and all other non-Muslims? They're following the example and the teachings of Muhammad, the perfect bully. Now, I've been going out and actually beginning to contact black pastors in California to pass out these flyers, which I believe they will start doing. Then at the bottom of it, it says Muhammad versus Jesus. Ask God for mercy. Turn from your sin. Put your trust in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. Muhammad versus Jesus. Muhammad owned black slaves. Muslims carry on a slave trade to this day. Jesus owned no slaves. Christians put an end to slavery in Europe and America. Now I know from the Civil War and the things we've done, we have stopped that over 100 years ago, but it's still current under Islam because the Muslims of the Middle East still today think that black people are inferior. In fact, we have proof here through the Hadith that Muhammad said that black people, Ethiopians, had heads like raisins. He was quite the racist. Muhammad said that blacks have hearts grosser than a donkey, and that's from the Hadith, Ishaq, page 243. And Muhammad taught that injured blacks should be left to die and denied entrance to heaven. That's in Bukhari, volume 4, book 52, number 137. And then Muhammad was a white man with black slaves. That's found in Bukhari, again, Hadith 63, volume 1, volume 2, book 17, number 141, volume 1, book 8, number 367, volume 9, book 91, number 368. Muhammad was a white cracker with black slaves. Okay, clip number 16, please. Clip number 16.
New York, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finally. I just want to thank the panel. I think this has been a very productive discussion, one in which I have learned quite a bit from. In the aftermath of 9/11, you know, we were all taught that we are not at war as a nation with Islam. We were at war with those who hijacked that religion and used it to justify their murderous and cowardly acts. From that, a lot of relationships were developed between the law enforcement community, local, state, and federal, with the Muslim community to try to better understand one another. I think we're at a point where progress has been made, but still much work needs to be done. And when I look at or hear the sheriff from Los Angeles talk about the programs that have been developed in your community, it's very similar to that of my community in Buffalo, New York. A smaller city directly south of Buffalo is a city called Lackawanna, an old steel city that was home to the Lackawanna Six.
Okay, you can see there the uniformed guy with Sheriff Baca again. He's retired, but the spirit of Baca is still in and going forward with the LA Sheriff and the LAPD. They're working together. And if you notice, the congressman there stated that they had made relationships, as Sheriff Baca had said. Well, those relationships that they made were with the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah, the guys who support ISIS, the guys who use the Quran in Surah 860 in the Quran to say terrorize the non-Muslims, the infidel, to use steeds of war, machines, guns, tanks, horses, kill the infidels. These are the guys that the LAPD and the New York police themselves, now if the LA and the New York police are openly admitting it, all the rest of them are too. Irvine, California, all the sheriffs, all the police chiefs are going to get their information about Islam from the Muslim Brotherhood. The same guys who support ISIS, the same guys who support the Taliban, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, the guys created in 1928 in Egypt who are now outlawed in Egypt. Why? For murdering the president of Egypt, for raping, for murdering, for doing all the things they did and still continue to do. Clip number 17. Let's take a look at clip number 17.
Ignorance. Ignorance is behind the criticism of Sohail Mohammed. Sohail Mohammed is an extraordinary American who is an outstanding lawyer and played an integral role in the post-September 11th period in building bridges between the Muslim American community in this state and law enforcement. I was there for it. I saw it personally. And the folks who criticize my appointment of Sohail Mohammed are ignorant, absolutely ignorant of that, and they're criticizing him because he's a Muslim American and because he represented people who were inappropriately detained by the FBI post 9/11. Now, the fact of the matter is there were lots of people inappropriately detained by the FBI post 9/11. It was a very difficult time for law enforcement. And Sohail Mohammed represented, as part of his practice at that time, folks who were inappropriately detained. None of them that Sohail Mohammed represented ever were charged with any crimes of terrorism. And they were released because of his diligent and zealous representation of them. In addition to that, he set up for me, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the FBI personally, dozens of meetings with Muslim American leaders across the state to convince them that federal law enforcement could be trusted in the aftermath of September 11th and that they should be working with us to provide information and lead.
So then we have another Republican, Sheriff Baca's a Republican, the congressman, he's either a Republican or a Democrat, I can't remember. And then we have Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, who is a Republican, talking about Sohail Mohammed being appointed to the bench. The Sohail Mohammed represents the Muslim Brotherhood and bringing in Council on American Islamic Relations, again, Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic Society of North America, Muslim Brotherhood, Muslim Student Association, Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood exists to destroy the Constitution of the United States and replace it with Sharia. We have all the proof, evidence, and facts of that. We've been talking about that for years. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel comfortable, do not. Now, I was at the sheriff's office today working with a leading member of the sheriff's department. I'm not going to identify what county. I'm not going to identify what sheriff. And I identified a mega mosque in California. I'm not going to say what city, and I'm not going to say the name of the leader. But when I showed to this high-ranking official of the sheriffs of this major county in California, and showed him a picture of the Muslim Brotherhood leader of this mosque, and I went through the symbols of the Muslim Brotherhood and things of that nature, that this leading member of the sheriffs, who I know is a Republican also, was shocked. And I'm thinking, it's been, what, September 11th, 2001 to today is over 13 years. And yet, because of Chris Christie and this congressman and Sheriff Baca and the LAPD and all these other agencies working together, aiding and abetting the takeover of America by the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm not an alarmist. Everything I'm using is proof, evidence, and facts. Everything I'm using is proof, evidence, and facts. So how could I possibly be an alarmist? I'm a former Marine Corps officer. I understand intelligence. I understand the gathering of intelligence. I did it as an 18-year-old in Vietnam, surrounded by the North Vietnamese Army. I understand. Everything starts and stops with proof, evidence, and facts. I'm working with some extraordinarily experienced people in the U.S. Army who worked with the CIA and giving them information, and they are confirming back to me their experiences in Afghanistan and Iraq. Everything I'm saying is absolutely 100% correct. So stay tuned. We got more. Clip number 18. Clip number 18.
To the noble people of Afghanistan, Salamu Alaikum. I'm General John Allen, commander of the International Security Assistance Force. I've ordered an investigation into a report I received during the night that ISAF personnel at Bagram Air Base improperly disposed of a large number of Islamic religious materials, which included Quran.
Now, I am totally ashamed of that, General. I know who he is. I'm a former Marine Corps officer, Vietnam. I actually supersede him and have a hell of a lot more of experience in warfare, close warfare, asymmetrical warfare, guerrilla warfare than he'll ever have. And there he is, not understanding that the model of Islamic battle planning is based on what did Muhammad do. And again, in the Quran, which I've said 5 million times before, I never exaggerate, that everything that a good Muslim does is based on what did Muhammad do. And so since Muhammad was a child molester, and a pedophile, and he murdered people, and a thug, and he robbed people, and he lied, then if we believe the Quran that a good Muslim does what Muhammad did, then a good Muslim is a bad person. In fact, if Muhammad were to come back alive today and do wherever he was in America or in most of the countries of the Middle East, he would be locked up, tried, convicted, and probably beheaded. Now, again, from the Quran, in Islam, Muhammad is considered to be the al-insan al-kamil, the ideal man or the perfect man. He is an excellent model of conduct, Quran 33:21. Now, the Baca, the congressman, General Allen, don't understand this. I know that for a fact because I've been working with the Marine Corps and the Army on this issue, and they refuse to hear it. In fact, they got very angry with me when they contracted me to come in and teach Islamic philosophy and Arabic years ago because of what I did in Vietnam, gathering human intelligence gathered by going with the local people who were telling me where the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong were. And then I said to them, look, this is not going to work in Iraq or Afghanistan. And they said, why? I said, because they're Muslims. And they said, what's religion got to do with it? Well, religion is the basis of all common law, and every government is based on some common law. All common law flows from some religion. And that's easy to prove. When you look at the 57 Muslim countries, all of their countries, they're either based in their constitution on Islam, all 54 out of the 57 countries, all but 3 are based on Islam. And even the 3 that aren't, which is Indonesia, Malaya, and Turkey, are rapidly being taken over by the believers of ISIS. If you don't believe that, look at Turkey. Turkey aids and abets and supporting ISIS. And in Malaya and in Indonesia, they're having a terrible time with that happening too. Common law, every government is based on some common law. And all common law is based on some religion. If you look at the nation of India, you will see the wheel of life and karma of the Hindus. And if you look at Japan with the old red sun coming up, it was emperor worship. And this is very difficult for secularists today to understand that. My degree is in political science. I'm going to be awarded my PhD in political science on December 21st. This is what I study extensively, 30, 40, 50 hours a day. When I get ready for this TV program, it takes me hours. I have people in India, in New Zealand, in Holland, in Italy, in Canada, in almost all 50 of the 50 United States, people in China and Japan who are helping me as we acquire more and more proof, evidence, and facts. And all proof, evidence, and facts points back to the Quran, and that a good Muslim does what the Quran tells them to do, and therefore they are an evil, wicked person because they are child molesters, pedophiles, murderers. When you see ISIS in action, you're seeing what did Muhammad do. Quran 33:21. Certainly you have in the messenger of Allah, Muhammad, an excellent exemplar for him who hopes in Allah and the latter day and remembers Allah much. In other words, if you want to be a good Muslim, do what Muhammad did. What did Muhammad do? It's real simple. In Christianity, we have what did Jesus do? In Islam, what did Muhammad do? So Sheriff Baca, even though you're retired, and General Allen, who is now in charge of our battle planning over there, taking on ISIS, refusing to understand that ISIS bases their battle plans on what did Muhammad do. If you don't understand your enemy, you're going to have problems. And in fact, in the United States, with Sheriff Baca, with Governor Chris Christie, with a congressman going to the Muslim Brotherhood to find out about Islam. In Islam, the Muslim Brotherhood, in the Quran, taqiyya, the Arabic word taqiyya means lying. They're lying to us. In the Quran, 68:4, Muhammad demonstrates an exalted standard of character. A thug, a murderer, a child abuser, a child molester, a pedophile, a cross-dresser. We have all of that information laid out. He was bewitched. His wife, 6-year-old wife, said that he was bewitched. And yet we have senior leaders in the Republicans and the Democrats going out of their way to have the Muslim Brotherhood, those who loved ISIS, come in and tell them to lie to them, to brainwash the FBI, the CIA, Homeland Security, our generals, our admirals, and all these people. The Muslims' holy book, the Quran, instructs Muslims repeatedly to obey Muhammad. That's in the Quran, verses 332, 3132, 413, 459, 469, 592, 81, 820, 846, 971, 2447, 2451, 2452, 2454, 2456, 33, 33, 47, 33, 49, 14, 58, 13, 64, 12. Muhammad was a racist. Muhammad is the guy that started all the stuff in the West with the buying and selling of black slaves. I have pictures of the United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps from 1833 going over to Africa to try to stop the slave trade, even while slave trading was allowed and permitted in the United States, which, by the way, was permitted by the United States Supreme Court and decided in a case, 1857, called Dred Scott, that black people were considered to be legal non-persons, and therefore they really weren't humans, and therefore they didn't get due process, and therefore they could be bought and sold like mules, horses, dogs, and chickens. Now that stopped with the Civil War. But sadly, these people who based the slave trade on what did Muhammad do, Muhammad had black slaves. I'm reading from it here, right here, in the Hadith by Bukhari. He said, okay, I take that back. That has to do with marrying young girls. Oh, here it is. Got it. Okay. Muhammad the white man, he bought him for 2 black slaves. That's found in Sahih Muslim 3901. It says, I came and behold, Allah's apostle Muhammad was staying on a mashroba attic room, and a black slave of Allah's apostle, the black slave belonged to Muhammad, that would be for Louis Farrakhan, was at the top of its stairs. I said to him, tell the Prophet that here is Umar bin al-Khattab asking for permission to enter. Then he admitted to me, Volume 9, Book 91, number 368, there came a slave and pledged allegiance to Allah's apostle Muhammad, and he, the holy prophet, did not know that he was a slave. Then there came his master and demanded him back, whereupon Muhammad said, sell him to me, and he bought for him 2 black slaves for Muhammad, and did not afterwards take allegiance from anyone until he had asked him whether he was a slave or free man. And that's from Sahih Muslim 3901, from Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, a great scholar and Islamic historian, says in his book Zad al-Ma'ad, Part 1, page 160, Muhammad had many male and female slaves. He used to buy and sell them, but he purchased more slaves than he sold. Muhammad once sold 1 black slave for 2 black slaves. His purchase of slaves were more than gold. Narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah, there came a slave and pledged allegiance to Muhammad. Then there came his master and demanded him back, whereupon Muhammad said, sell him to me, and he bought him for 2 black slaves. And it goes on. And it also says Muhammad was a white man. Louis Farrakhan. Muhammad was a white man. While we were sitting with the Prophet in the mosque, a man came riding on a camel. He made his camel kneel down in the mosque, tied its foreleg, and then said, who amongst you is Muhammad? At that time, the Prophet was sitting amongst us, leaning on his arm. We replied, this white man reclining on his arm. Muhammad owned a black slave. This is a different one. I came and behold, Allah's apostle was staying in this attic room, and a black slave of Muhammad's was at the top of the stairs. And it goes on and on and on. In Bukhari, volume 1, 367, Bukhari is a hadith, it's like our King James Bible. It says Muhammad was a white man. Let's see, Bukhari, volume 1, number 63, on page 20. Volume 2, number 122. On Bukhari, volume 2, number 141. Bukhari, volume 4, number 744. Muhammad was a white man with black slaves. And yet, Council on American Islamic Relations, Muslim Brotherhood, and these other guys deny this, and they are the guys who support the beheading and the child molestation and the raping. Okay. What's going on over there, my man? Wahid, how are you? Okay. Clip number 19. Clip number 19.
I just wonder why you won't condemn it when your own leader, Omar Bakri, said quite simply, I condemn the killing of innocent people on the 20th of July.
Yeah,
why won't you say what he said?
No, at the end of the day, innocent people, when we say innocent people, we mean Muslims. As far as non-Muslims are concerned, they have not accepted Islam. As far as we're concerned, that is a crime against God.
I want to be clear about what you're saying. This is very important. You're saying only Muslims can count as innocent people.
As far as Muslims are concerned, you're innocent if you are a Muslim, then you're innocent in the eyes of God. If you are non-Muslim, then you're guilty of not believing in God. Yes, there were many victims.
You're guilty. Are you seriously suggesting that everybody on those tube trains and on that bus in London on July the 7th was in some way a legitimate target?
You don't allow me to answer the question fully, Stephen. You're never going to get to the bottom of it. Let me begin by saying, as a Muslim, you must have allegiance where the Sharia says that you have allegiance. You must hate and love for the sake of Allah. You must praise and dispraise for what the Sharia says, you praise and dispraise. So as a Muslim, I must support my Muslim brothers and sisters, wherever they are in the world. I must have allegiance with them. I must cooperate with them. I must love them. And similarly, on the other hand, I must have hatred towards everything which is non-Islam.
You know what? I'm trying not to interrupt you too much, but I still don't feel you have addressed my question. Were those people on the underground trains and on the bus legitimate targets because they were not Muslim?
I'm coming on to your point.
Some of them actually were.
No, you've asked about 2 or 3 different questions. You've asked about innocence. You've asked about whether they were legitimate target. You've asked about whether I'm condoning or condemning. You've asked about whether I praise them.
We've moved on from that. I've asked you a very simple question.
All of those questions deserve to be answered, and obviously we have the time to explore them. So if I just continue with this particular point, as far as Muslims are concerned, their allegiance is always with the Muslims. So I will never condemn a Muslim for what he does. Indeed, I must stand with him, whether he's an oppressor or oppressed.
Sheikh Bakri declared Britain to be Dar al-Harb, which basically means a land of war, a land where...
Britain's always been Dar al-Harb. Britain's always been Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Harb is a place where there is non-Islamic law. The whole world today is Dar al-Harb.
The point about being a land which is Dar al-Harb is that you and your group, therefore, feel you have license to conduct violent operations within it.
Fact is that the whole world is Dar al-Harb. There are certain areas where the Muslims are actively liberating their land.
So why on the 18th of January did Omar Bakri declare Britain to be Dar al-Harb? If it's always been the case, why did he choose to say it?
Yeah, because you never bothered to listen to him before. But the fact is that Britain changed from being Dar al-Harb to being Dar al-Fitna. Dar al-Fitna is a place where the Muslims no longer have sanctity for their life and their wealth. That was the change. Otherwise, Britain has always been Dar al-Harb.
Zawahri has said that he believes there will be, should be, new operations in London, inshallah, God willing. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I think that's inevitable. If you don't change the cause of what took place on 7/7...
I'm not asking you if you feel it's inevitable. I'm asking you if, like him, you are calling for them.
No, what we're calling for the British public and the British government to wake up. Withdraw your forces from the
I'm asking you not to talk about the British government. I'm asking you to give me your opinion on Al-Qaeda's leaders' new calls for attacks in the United Kingdom and in London.
That's his call, isn't it? So obviously he's
I'm asking you, will you condemn it?
No, I can never condemn a Muslim brother. I will never condemn a Muslim brother. I will always stand with my Muslim brother.
Whether you stand with him, you want those attacks to continue in London. You stand with him. You just said
I haven't finished my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. I will stand with my Muslim
I just wonder.
Okay, very good. Now, that guy there is a global leader in the Muslim Brotherhood. He supports ISIS. He supports Boko Haram. He supports Al-Qaeda. He supports Taliban. He's Muslim Brotherhood. He bases all of his thinking, his actions on the Quran, Surah 860, which means you go to war with the infidels. Now, Suhail Khan, the guy appointed by Chris Christie, supports the Muslim Brotherhood, Council on American Islamic Relations, which the United Arab Emirates, in an article a couple of weeks ago, came out and said that Council on American Islamic Relations is a terrorist organization. And when we started the clip with Sheriff Baca, he worked hand in glove, as does the LAPD, as does New York and Texas and Seattle and Washington and D.C., Washington, D.C., and North Dakota and Alaska and Hawaii and Arizona and Tucson and in New Mexico, all of them. You heard that. All of our police and sheriffs are getting their information from the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood goes in there and lies and says, oh yeah, we love America, we love the Constitution, we love the Jews, we love the Christians. It's all a lie. And you listen right there to Anjam Chowdhury state that America and England and Canada and Mexico and Europe are Dar al-Harb, which means we are the house of war. Dar means house. Al-Harb means house of war. Dar, or house, Al-Islam means house of Islam. What they're saying there, the Muslim Brotherhood is saying, it's okay to act like ISIS and attack us because we're infidels. Following the Quran and the model of the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS, Boko Haram, and all these different groups on chapter 8, verse 60, to replace the constitutions of all our Western nations and replace it with the Quran so that they can have multiple wives, have sex with little girls, have slaves, stab people, which has happened multiple times in Denver and in New York and in Arizona and in all over the United States. In New York, the one guy chopped his wife's head off. Okay, now, also in that, you have Zakat Foundation of America, which supports terrorism. Zakat means alms for the poor, or when they give their tithe to the poor, zakat. The Zakat Foundation of America, funded in 2001, the Zakat Foundation of America presents itself as an Islamic international charity organization. Well, it is a charity organization. It funds suicide bombers' families and Al-Qaeda in prison for murdering and killing and raping people. The Zakat Foundation of America is part of the global terrorist network, all linked together, coming from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, all over the United States. And this goes back again to these clips I'm showing of the police and the sheriffs aiding and abetting the global terrorism by bringing in Council on American Islamic Relations, Islamic Society of North America, Muslim Student Association. And this is confirmed by Andrew McCarthy, who's the guy that got the blind sheikh convicted of being originally blowing up the World Trade Center. Okay, clip number 14. Clip number 14, please.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. I'm deeply regretful that I cannot be with you this evening. As you listen to my message, I'm either in Qatar, Abu Dhabi, or Egypt, meeting with my Arab law enforcement colleagues. We are working on strategies of cooperation, public safety, and education on a worldwide basis. I want to thank CARE for the friendship that has been extended to me.
He says, I want to thank CARE. Well, CARE has been convicted by the United Arab Emirates of being a terrorist organization, and now we got sheriffs and police chiefs, so we've got congressmen, we've got the governor of New Jersey and all these other guys that are being taught by those who want to destroy America. United Arab Emirates publishes a list of terrorist organizations, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Muslim Brotherhood. Al-Qaeda organization, Islamic State, which is ISIS, the Islamic Relief Organization, an affiliate of the International Organization of the Muslim Brotherhood Organization and Group, Council on American Islamic Relations. What are we doing? Thank God for the Way TV and that we could come out here and tell the truth, that I could meet in secrecy with one of the leading representatives in one of the sheriff's departments in California. I think I was totally surprised. I handed him the proof this morning, in fact. Thoroughly surprised. Okay. Clip number 20. Clip number 20.
We now want to bring in radical cleric Amjem Chowdhury. Nick, I know you've interviewed him in the past and have a few questions for him today.
Mr. Chowdhury, you've been listening to us discussing here your reputation in Britain. When you look at this latest effort to attack the United States, do you not worry that it is your voice that's helping radicalize people who want to do this?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, there is a struggle taking place globally, and our voices are there merely to portray the truth. Whether we like it or not, there are two camps in the world today, a camp which believes that sovereignty and supremacy belongs to man. At the head of that is Barack Obama. And the other camp believes that sovereignty and supremacy belongs to God. At the head of that is Sheikh Osama bin Laden. So what we see today is a phenomenon of the conflict between these two camps. It is on an intellectual level, it is on an economic level, it is being played out in Afghanistan and Iraq. You've seen the warnings recently from Sheikh Osama bin Laden, from Adam Ghaddan and other people around the world who have said that as long as you occupy Muslim land, then there will be a reaction. Every cause has an effect. So either we turn a blind eye to these things and we silence the voices of truth. We don't want to hear people who say, look,
as long as we occupy Islamic countries, hey, for 1,400 years, for 1,100 years before America was ever thought of, everywhere the Muslims went, on Jamshidari, with the spirit of ISIS, with the spirit of Council on American Islamic Relations, on the spirit of the Muslim Brotherhood, the spirit of the Muslim Student Association, on the spirit of the Islamic Society of North America, of the spirit of Suhail Muhammad, appointed by Chris Christie to sit on the bench in New Jersey. All of those folks out there for 1,400 years have been plotting to take over the world. It's the dawah, it is the goal and the intent of Islam to go out and transform the whole world in the 7th century Arabia. In the Western concept, the overarching purpose of education was to transmit the wisdom of our ancestors to every child, boy and girl, that we might all live in the land with the highest degree of peace, order, liberty, and prosperity, period. That is why in the Western nations we have the highest degree of peace, order, liberty, and prosperity, even with all the sins and evil things we've done, because we can go out and correct them based on our Anglo-American common law, which is basically equity, found in Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, and we can go back to equity, fairness, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Oh, gee, who said that other than Jesus Christ? Is it really that hard? It really isn't, because remember, all government structure flows from some common law. The law common to the tribe that becomes the nation. And all common law is based on some religion. Even if it was in old Russia, which failed under communism, was atheism against God, was the basis of their constitution, that it was the proletariat. And the workers of the world arise, you have nothing to lose but your chains, which always, in communism or socialism, redistribution, always means that you have to steal from somebody to give somebody else. And when you steal from somebody to give somebody else, you have to have secret police who come and knock on the door at night to kidnap the people and take all of their possessions, as the Third Reich did also with the Jews. They were a socialist/communist nation too. You have to have the secret police, and then you have to have, death camps or gulags, iron curtains, bamboo curtains, because people yearn and love liberty and freedom, and they will risk their lives. Give me death or give me liberty. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there you will find liberty. But wherever Islam holds sway, you will find the highest degree of hostility, disorder, slavery, poverty, and misogyny. Why? Because the overarching purpose of education in Islam is to send boys only to madrasas, schools, to beat them into memorizing the Quran and then sending them out everywhere to transform all of the nations they can, like the Muslim Brotherhood, like Council on American Islamic Relations, like how they have brainwashed our police, our sheriffs, our governors, our congressmen, our president, even George W. Bush. And they can brainwash everybody and get people to buy into the PMS, power, money, and sex, that Islam promises young men, and turns the state into RPM, religious, political, and military. and thereby changing, their goal is to change the whole fabric of every nation to make them all little, what they consider paradise, 7th century Arabia under Muhammad, which does the opposite. It always creates the highest degree of hostility, disorder, slavery, poverty, and misogyny. Sexual perversion is run amok in Islam. It is amazing. In talking, one of the guys on one of my channels here, Dr. Zakir Naik, this guy right here, he comes out, he's got Peace TV, peace. But everywhere I see Islam, where Islam butts up with another country, as soon as they butt up next to that other country, war breaks out. Why? Because Muslims can't control themselves. A good Muslim does, according to the Quran, what Muhammad did, which is to attack, to kill, to rape, to kidnap, to enslave, to destroy liberty. Liberty is written on our heart. It's in our conscience. It's in our DNA. It's in our genomes. It's in our very warp and woof of being a human being. Being a human being, people want to be left alone. Do not unto others as you would not have them done unto you. And yet we have all of these people who claim to be wise but are really fools. Sheriff Baca, the congressman, Suhail Muhammad, the General Allen for the Marine Corps, Anjam Chowdhury, Chris Christie. Okay, so here's Dr. Zakir Naik. He says having sex with goats is okay because Muhammad said it was okay, and evidently Muhammad must have had sex with goats too, because that's what he says. A man is still considered pure when he releases his lust with a sheep or a goat. If there is no woman, then there is no true lust or sexual sin. Then the animal becomes tainted and must die. So says the Prophet Muhammad. This is from Dr. Zakir Naik, who comes on channel 35.5 a couple hours every week. Okay, clip number 21.
For every opinion or belief someone may hold, there will be another party who just as strongly oppose that idea. Both sides usually claim to sit with the best arguments, the real facts, and the correct worldview, and ironically, both sides regard the other as being indoctrinated, blind to the obvious and outright stupid. Most people only expose themselves to information that matches their own worldview. It is uncomfortable to do otherwise. Still, we would like to give you some surprising information about Islam. We also urge you to look further than only mainstream media, and if you can find the time for it, read the Quran yourself. To get you started, we'd like to present you 3 things you probably did not know about Islam. 1. Islam has not been hijacked. That Islam has been hijacked is what non-Muslims naturally assume, because they assume all religions are the same. The reason non-Muslims are so easily confused is that most of us don't realize the difference between the Quran and every other religious book we are familiar with. The Christian Bible is a collection of writings from various authors, written sometimes hundreds of years apart, with parables, advice and dreams, all collected together into one book. Same with the Jewish Torah. Even those of us in the West, who are neither Christians nor Jews, are still familiar enough with these religions to know this much, and therefore we assume the same for the Quran. But the Quran is only one book written by one man in his own lifetime. It is meant to be taken literally, and it is not full of symbolism or vague analogies. It is mostly direct commands. Of course, the Quran contains contradictory statements, just like other religious books. But the Quran itself provides the reader with a way to know what to do with the contradictions. It's explained in the Quran that if you have 2 passages that contradict each other, the one written later supersedes the one written earlier. Most Westerners are unaware that the peaceful, tolerant passages were written early in Muhammad's prophetic career. According to the Quran, those passages have been abrogated by later, more violent and less tolerant passages. So, when most Westerners hear jihadists quoting violent passages from the Quran, and then peaceful Muslims quoting peaceful passages, they interpret that the way they would if someone was quoting the Bible or the Torah. They think to themselves, oh, there must be many different and contradictory passages, like there are in other religious books, so Muslims can pick and choose what they like and justify whatever actions they want to take. But the Quran is nothing like that. There is no picking and choosing. It says very explicitly and in no uncertain terms that a Muslim must not alter or ignore any part of its very clear and direct message, or they will burn in a fiery torment forever. Two, striving to institute worldwide Sharia law is a religious duty. Many people don't realize how politically oriented Islam is at its core. In fact, Islam is less of a religion than it is a religious ideology. It includes a mandatory and highly specific legal and political plan for the whole society, Sharia. There is no separation between the religious and the political in Islam. Rather, Islam and Sharia constitute a totalitarian means of ordering society at every level, including ritual worship, transactions and contracts, morals and manners, beliefs and punishments. In the Quran, Allah makes it clear that man-made governments, such as a democracy, and free speech, such as criticizing the Quran, are abominations and must be eliminated. The modern expression creeping Sharia is used to describe the slow, deliberate and methodical advance of Islamic law in non-Muslim countries. Official Sharia courts already operate in the UK, handling cases ranging from divorce and financial disputes to domestic violence. Attempts to introduce Sharia in the legal system in Germany, Sweden and other European countries are ongoing. While Sharia already has a foot in our door in the matter of minor disputes like inheritance and domestic violence, it should concern you that Sharia commands that drinkers and gamblers should be whipped, allows husbands to hit their wives, allows an injured plaintiff to exact legal revenge, literally an eye for an eye, commands that a thief must have a hand cut off, commands that homosexuals must be executed, orders unmarried fornicators to be whipped and adulterers to be stoned to death, orders death for both Muslim and non-Muslim critics of Muhammad, the Quran and even Sharia itself, orders apostates to be killed, commands offensive, aggressive and unjust jihad. As written in the Quran, Sharia is the law of Allah. Any other form of government is a sin. It is the duty of every Muslim to keep striving until all governments have been converted to Sharia law. Three, Muslims are allowed to deceive non-Muslims if it helps Islam. For non-Muslims, this principle, called taqiyya, is another surprising concept of Islam. While most other religions speak highly of truthfulness, the Quran instructs Muslims to lie to non-Muslims about their beliefs and their political ambitions to protect and spread Islam. There are many examples of today's Islamic leaders saying one thing in English for the Western press and then saying something entirely different to their own followers in Arabic a few days later. Deceiving the enemy is always useful in war, and Islam is at war with the non-Islamic world until the whole world follows Sharia law. All non-Muslims living in non-Islamic states are therefore enemies. So deceiving Westerners is totally acceptable, even encouraged, if it can forward the goals of the spread of Islam. As a recent example, the Islamic American Relief Agency was seemingly raising money for orphans, but in fact giving the money to terrorists. They deceived good-hearted Western infidels into giving money to organizations that were actively killing Western infidels. Do the research yourself. This is not an isolated case. Islam as a religion of peace. Muslim organizations worldwide often declare that Islam is a religion of peace. But what does that really mean? It seems easy for a Muslim to quote a peaceful verse from the early parts of the Quran, while, by following the principle of taqiyya, neglecting to mention the fact that it has been officially abrogated by later, more violent verses. According to the Quran, the world will be at peace only when Islam and Sharia reign in every country, and never until then. This is why every Muslim can truthfully say that Islam is a religion of peace. If any of these points took you by surprise, then there is surely much more you still don't know. This subject will affect you in the near future, so take the chance to inform yourself now before it does.
Okay, there you go. Everything I've been saying was confirmed there, and I'm sure a lot of you are thoroughly stunned and surprised, just as every one of the law enforcement people I talk to, FBI, police, sheriffs, military, they don't know what to do with it. So that's why we have the Way TV, and that's exactly why we have Wake Up America, and please support this channel. And by the way, from a military point of view, which my doctoral thesis is all about, the sword of Jesus versus the sword of Muhammad, it's done as a giant battle plan, which I used to do for the Marine Corps a long, long time ago. And so I put it together following the steps of battle planning. So it's 240 pages long, and frankly, it only goes through situation and mission. It doesn't get to execution, which I have completed, but I haven't published yet, or administration and command and control. But I will do that soon. And so far, I've gotten really good reviews for it, and as a result, I have been awarded a PhD in theology, Christian/Islamic political science, summa cum laude, and I'll be awarded in just a few days here. I won't tell you when, because frankly, I don't want to be suicide bombed by all these peace-loving, lying Muslims out there like Anjam Chadari, who are going like the Council on American Islamic Relations or the Zakat Foundation of America. Zakat, by the way, is one of the 5 de jure pillars, de jure and de facto. De jure means as written or as promised, but de facto means actually what's delivered. So the 5 pillars of Islam, one of them is zakat, and the other one's doing the Hajj. Those are de jure and meaningless. The 5 de facto pillars of Islam is real simple. What did Muhammad do? 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 And that's what the Quran states in those 22 verses. A good Muslim does what Muhammad does. So a good Muslim doing what Muhammad did actually is a bad person and murders and kills and rapes, is a child molester, masturbating between the thighs of 6-year-old girls. So it's okay, according to Ayatollah Khomeini in his little green book and some other proof, evidence, and facts that we have, that it's okay to masturbate between the thighs of a little boy or a little girl, or to have sex with a sheep or a goat or a camel, bestiality. It's all A-OK. Now, Council on American Islamic Relations, Muslim Student Association, Islamic Society of North America, the Zakat Foundation of America, all these other different liars out there are not going to come into the police, the sheriffs, to the Homeland Security, CIA, FBI, and the military and tell them the truth, because if they did, the people of the West would be so upset they would throw up and would never permit this to happen. So we'll close on this clip here. Adam, if you're still awake, clip number 13, please.
Yes, thank you all for this wonderful meeting and informational, particularly on the counterterrorism end. My name is Tom Trento, visiting you folks from South Florida. I'm actually in town doing a documentary, doing research on the Muslim Brotherhood's existence and operational activity in Los Angeles County. I'm holding in my hand a book called Sharia, The Threat to America, that was written by 19 national security experts, including many bureau people, agency people, Andy McCarthy, who put the blind sheikh in prison, Jim Woolsey, and myself. I'm one of the authors. My question to the LA Sheriff's Department and to the Bureau, do you believe the Muslim Brotherhood exists in Los Angeles County? And if you do, what are you doing to inform the citizens of the danger of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Thank you. Okay. We actually also have Deputy Chief Michael Downing here with us. He joined us. So, Jeff.
The Muslim Brotherhood, is an organization, a politically active motivation. I'm sure it does exist here in a different form. I think that one of the benefits of what we do in terms of dealing with the motivational aspects of terrorism is to outreach and engage with the community so they don't feel isolated, balkanized, oppressed, and besieged. And our biggest counterterrorism strategy in this community is the partnership that we have with the Muslim communities.
The Brotherhood's very active in this county.
I know the Brotherhood is, but see, one of the responsibilities for us to see, there's different views about the Brotherhood. Albana, who created it, his idea is different than some of the people that are on the fringe of it here. Just like Republicans and Democrats are more conservative and more liberal, that's what we have here. But the message is not to demonize the Brotherhood here, but to create not to demonize the Brotherhood. But and we don't.
There he is. Don't demonize the Muslim Brotherhood, Council on American Islamic Relations. Don't demonize them. That is a counterterrorism commander for the LAPD. I rest my case. I have proved my case that indeed the police, the sheriffs, the military, congressmen, governors are aiding and abetting ISIS and the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. Until next week, adieu.
في كتير طرق وسط الحياة تاهوا فيها ناس وطرق تبان مفروشة ورد وتنتهي بألم وضيق لكن الطريق للفرحة وطريق الخلاص عند المسيح أصل المسيح